Hi friends, and welcome back to Olive Out Nails, where we talk about vegan and cruelty-free nail polish. Today we are going to be talking about the Sensual collection from Zoya, and I've already done my live swatch and review of these polishes, but today I'll be doing my comparison. So you'll see each of these 12 shades compared to other shades from Zoya's collection. I will link my live swatch and review up in the cards if you want to see that, and down below in the description box I will list each of these polishes with a timestamp, so if you want to jump ahead to a particular polish you can do that. Alright friends, first up we have Joss, which is this very pretty kind of soft, neutrally blush toned pink, and Zoya has a couple blush toned pink neutrals. I'm comparing it down here to some of the most popular ones like Rue, Mia, and then also just some others that people had requested. So Joey was from the summer collection. You can see that they're actually pretty different. Joey's much more kind of peachy, brighter pink, and Avril, which is again much more lighter, much more neutral. They have very similar undertones, but they're pretty different. I would say the closest three are Rue, Joss, and Mia. Mia is definitely a bit more warm toned, whereas Rue is a little bit cooler toned. So they're not dupes, but they are pretty close. If you have one, you may not need all three, but they all do have very different undertones. I feel like Mia is much warmer, much more red, Rue is much cooler, and so Joss is a little bit more neutral, although it does lean pretty warm. So I will swatch these three just so you can see a little bit more of their differences on the nails. All right, so here is the first coat of Joss, and this one, again, just has such a lovely formula, especially given how light it is. I was really impressed by this one. And then here on my ring finger, we're gonna do Mia. Mia definitely has a little bit of a more watery formula. And here is Rue, and Rue is so funny. In the bottle, they looked so similar, but on the nail, this one looks so pale. It pales in comparison. All right, so I'm coming back in for a second coat of Joss. This one will just kind of even out that color a little bit. It's not a perfect one coater. It definitely needs that second coat a little bit. And here's the second coat of Mia. Again, it's a little bit more watery, a little bit more sheer, so this one definitely needs the second coat to build up to opacity. Rue, we're gonna put a second coat on, but I don't think it's gonna deepen the color enough that it's, you know, gonna be close to a dupe for Joss. Rue is a pretty soft, kind of muted shade. We have Mia, Joss, and Rue, and none of these are dupes. Up next we have another kind of neutrally nude shade. This one is Kinsley, and it is right here in the middle. And I'm comparing it here to some other kind of light brown neutrally shades. This palette to me looks very fall. I'm very excited about it. Kinsley is down here in the middle, and we have Flowy and Amanda, which are two, they're kind of like lighter brown nudes that I thought of, but they're not really the right undertone. Obviously Amanda's much lighter and Flowy's almost orange compared to these other ones, so I'm gonna pull these ones out. And then we're just looking at these three, which are Flynn, Kinsley, and Spencer. And Spencer is one that a lot of people were kind of asking about. They were curious about this one compared to Kinsley, so let's look at these three up close. I think just like our first comparison, the difference here is the undertone. You can really see that blush tone that Zoya said is in here. Flynn and Spencer are both browns with a little bit of a yellow undertone, which is very flattering on some people, very pretty, but Kinsley definitely has that warm undertone, which will be flattering on kind of a different set of people. So I don't think I need to swatch these. I don't see any dupes here. All right, next up is Foster, and Foster is this one right here. It is a very, very warm toned brown. I just want to show how many different browns there are here. I think I tend to not wear a lot of browns, and so I don't often think about how many different shades of brown Zoya really does have, but there's just such a wide range of colors here, which is really, really nice. Down here, I think there's some that are really obvious that are super different. Foster looks so warm, so red down here. Obviously, Mary is much more grayed out, much more cool toned, and then Gina, Desiree, and Louise are much more kind of dark chocolate. They're a little bit kind of deeper brown. They don't have the same warm undertone as Dia and Foster. So I'm going to pull these away. So the two that I think are closest are Foster and Dia, and these actually look really close to me. Dia is a bit lighter on this swatch stick, and Foster is a bit darker, like maybe 1 or 2 drops. And so I do actually want to swatch these just to kind of show you on the nail. You know, sometimes they will dry a little bit darker on the nail, a little bit different than they are on a swatch stick. All right, so I'm coming in first with the first coat of Dia, and this one, I don't know when this one's from, actually. I don't think it's one of the Natural collections, but I could be misremembering. I don't know the browns as well as I know some of the other colors. All right, and now here is the first coat of Foster. This is the new one from the Sensual collection. And this one, when I swatched it, in my swatching review, the first coat was a little bit streaky, but it got up all the way to opacity in 2 coats. I think I took too much polish off. This looks, I'm missing a little bit there. All right, so I'm coming in for a second coat of Dia, and that one goes on nice and smooth in 2 coats. And now for a second coat of Foster. All right, here we go. So I do see a very small difference. These are super, super close. So I think it's probably up to you how much you wear browns. I think these are really close for me. I don't know that they're exact dupes, but they're pretty close. All right, friends, up next we have Briar, which is this really gorgeous polish right here. And Briar is a really nice, I think Zoya describes it as a terracotta red toned cream. Down here I have it compared to a bunch of different polishes, some of which were kind of requests that I wanted to pull in, and some I think are actually a little bit closer. So some folks had asked about it compared to Liza and Monroe, because those are fairly recent polishes. So Liza was in the Barefoot collection, which was the summer collection this year, and so I wanted to pull it because they're kind of similarly like weird reddy pink colors, but they are pretty different, and now they're covering each other. There we go. And a couple people had mentioned that Briar reminded them of Monroe when I swatched it. It is, you know, a little bit more muted. It's not very pink, so Monroe and Liza are not quite good matches here. And then I wanted to pull in Hera, which is kind of this little mauve-y red toned polish, but it's not quite right. It has too much purple in it. Briar really is a red polish. The best comparisons are Kate and Coco. And I would still say these polishes are mauve-y, but they're much more red toned than they are pink toned or purple toned mauves, which I think really sets them apart. I've done a comparison of Kate and Coco with each other, but I think Briar really fits in here. So I am gonna swatch these because they do actually to me look like pretty close here, but I think it would be helpful to see these swatched. All right, so I am starting with the first coat of Briar, and I don't know, I'm really into this color. It's so unique in my collection and so fun. On my pointer finger here, I'm doing the first coat of Kate. This one looks much lighter out of the bottle than it did in the bottle. They looked much closer in the bottle, but on the nail, it's coming out pretty light here. And then here on my ring finger, we're doing Cocoa. This one has really strong kind of brown mauve undertones in here. This one's more like a Marsala color. All right, so here's the second coat of Briar. And I feel like this one's pretty much a one coater. The second coat doesn't, in my opinion, really make much of a difference. For my friend Kate over here, on the other hand, the second coat is gonna make quite a bit of a difference because that one was pretty light and sheer. And for Cocoa, I think it'll just bring us all the way to opacity. All right, so those three definitely are different. Cocoa is the deepest, Briar is kind of right in the middle, and Kate is much more like pink and soft. I see no dupes here. I think Briar does fit in with this group, but they are all three really, really pretty. Okay, next up is Margaret. Margaret is right here. Margaret is a really gorgeous red cream. I love this one, and I'm comparing it here to a kind of classic fall red Pepper to just kind of show you how different it is from Pepper. Pepper is kind of what I think of as a fall red, but Margaret is much more kind of vibrant than Pepper is. And then I'm also comparing it to Janelle, which is another like deeper red, because Margaret is not super bright, it's not super summery, it does have a little bit of depth to it, so I'm comparing it to Janelle for that. And then America is just a kind of classic red. It's a very popular red, but it's much brighter. It has much more white in it than Margaret does. So Margaret really doesn't match anything in my collection. I have a lot of reds from Zoya that look like this, where they're a little bit sheer in the formula, and they're not quite as kind of white based. Whereas Margaret, you can tell it has almost like a more solid feeling to it. So I think that really set it apart from a lot of the reds in my collection. I haven't done a reds comparison yet of all the reds that I have because Zoya has a ton, but I do feel like a lot of them have this kind of more sheer, more jelly formula, which is pretty common with reds. So I appreciate that Margaret has a little bit more of a kind of a substantial formula, if you will. All right, next up we have Rashida, which is this beautiful kind of red metallic right here. And I will put a disclaimer out that I don't have all of the red metallics from Zoya. I am getting real close, my friends, but I am not at 100% yet. I did try to look up some of the red metallics that Zoya has that I don't own, and none of them look super close. The only one that looked a little bit close is Isla, so I'll put a picture in right now just so you can see a swatch of Isla. It looks a little bit more like blackened in its base than Rashida is. Rashida is very, very kind of warm and light. There's no darkness here, and Isla looked a little bit more dark than I had remembered. So I don't have it, but I don't think that it would be a dupe regardless. But I am comparing this to Ash, which was a request. They are a little bit similar, but Ash is a bit more kind of pink leaning. They have a similar finish, I would say, but Ash has a bit more silver in its metallic. It's a little bit more silver. Rashida's a little bit warmer, and Ash is a little bit more pink. So it's kind of a cooler pink metallic, and Rashida's a warmer red metallic. And then Sarah looked a little bit similar on the nail, but it's a little bit wrong color, right? It's a little bit more pink. It's not quite as red as Rashida, so Sarah's not quite right either. The closest I have is Elisa, and these actually do look pretty similar. I would say the difference is that Elisa is a little bit more orange toned, but it's not a super strong difference. So I think I am gonna swatch these two just so you can see them on the nail. I just think they look so similar that from far away on the nail, they may not look that different. So I'm gonna swatch these two for you. All right, so here is the first coat of Rashida, and this one is, like many metallics, a little bit sheer on the first coat. So we will wanna definitely do both of these metallics in 2 coats. All right, and here is the first coat of Elisa. They do look pretty similar on the first coat, I would say, but I see a little bit more kind of orange red in Elisa and a little bit more kind of dark blackened red in Rashida. So let's build these up and see what they look like. All right, so that's the second coat of Rashida going on. It's definitely got more of a blackened base. It's much deeper, whereas Elisa is looking a lot more orangey red, maybe summery red. So I think these two are definitely not dupes. So Rashida, I would say, is unique in Zoya's collection. All right, next up is Edda. Edda is right here in the middle, and it is this really pretty kind of, I don't know, winey cranberry red-y metallic polish. And just look at this spread. All of these are so beautiful. I feel like I've said that for like half of these spreads, but they really just are. They're so shiny, they're so pretty. And down here, I definitely think we have a lot of similarities in these polishes. So I actually think that we need to look at these up close because it's kind of hard to tell differences down here. All right, so first up here, two that I don't think are very similar. Rihanna and Gem are both a different kind of purple, right? Rihanna is a little bit more pink and Gem is much kind of deeper and winier. I would say Gem has a similar finish, but definitely these are different colors. All right, now the ones that I think are the most similar are Blair and Callista. Blair is different in that it is a bit more red and Edda is a bit more kind of winey purple. Callista looks pretty similar. Yeah, they're definitely fairly close in terms of color, but Edda has a totally different finish. So maybe they look more close to me because I don't wear this finish that often, but I think Edda is really, really pretty. I feel like you probably don't have one exactly like it in your collection from Zoya, and I just think that you'll fall in love with it like I have. All right, here is Ripley, this one right here. I was really impressed by this polish. I like it a lot more than I expected to. It's a really nice, very warm, almost winey purple. And I'm comparing it down here to Margot, which is the one that I think it is the closest to in Zoya's collection. But I also just wanted to bring in the other purples from this year because we have Rie and also Yvette. Yvette was in the spring collection, the Innocence collection, and Rie was in the Barefoot collection. And I just thought that would be helpful because you might have these ones since they're so recent. They're obviously pretty different. Rie is like a little bit similar in terms of it's kind of like a pinky purple, but Yvette is obviously much more of a grape purple. So these are pretty different. Ripley and Margot, on the other hand, are super close. I think Margot is maybe just a hint more red and Ripley's a hint more pink, but I am gonna swatch these because I feel like they are real close. So we'll see them up close on the nail. All right, so here's the first coat of Ripley. And this one, again, I was sure that I had a dupe for it. I kind of didn't think it was gonna be Margot. I'm a little surprised, but we'll see how they look on the nails. So that's the first coat of Ripley. Here is the first coat of Margot. They have very similar formulas. Margot's formula is pretty good as well, so I don't know that I noticed much of a comparison there. Margot's maybe just a hair thinner than Ripley. Okay, and now here's the second coat of Ripley. This one has such a luxurious, gorgeous finish. It's so deep and just really rich. I'm enjoying Ripley a lot. Right, here's the second coat of Margot. Ripley, I feel like got a much kind of deeper and darker purple on the second coat. Oh yeah, Margot's maybe a little bit more pink, whereas Ripley's a little bit more purple, but these two are really close. I don't know that you need both of these in your collection if you already have Margot. I mean, if you're trying to decide if you should get the, you know, the whole collection and do the pre-order deal, then you're not going to be sad, I don't think, to have Ripley in your collection, but it is pretty close to Margot. So I don't know, up to you. These are super close. All right, friends, here we go. Here's another one that I'm not going to need to do a swatch for. This is Michaela, and I'm comparing it here to Monica and Odette. And I picked these three to compare because Monica and Odette are two kind of very grayed out purples, but they're not the same as Michaela. So let's look at these up close. All right, so I feel like Odette is actually a pretty saturated purple given how neutral it is, but it is nothing compared to Michaela. Michaela is much deeper and darker, and then Monica is obviously even deeper and darker than that. Monica is very grayed out compared to some other purples. I'll link a comparison up above if you want to see Monica compared to some other purples from Zoya, but Michaela is much softer, much warmer, and so yeah, I feel like Michaela is very unique in Zoya's collection, which is awesome because they have a lot of purples. All right, friends, here we go. This is Vesper, and oh my goodness, look how beautiful these are. I love all blues. These blue grays, absolutely stunning. So I'm comparing Vesper here to some other kind of blue grays from Zoya. I saw a lot of people say, oh, it looks like a darker Caitlin, it looks like a Kelly, because Zoya does have a couple bluey grays. I'm also comparing it to some other blurples because it looks kind of blurple and it looks kind of blue gray. So let's look first compared to blurples. All right, so Vesper is from the fall collection, Airy is from the spring collection, Danielle is from a couple winters ago, maybe 2017, and so definitely it's different here. It kind of fits in this like grayed out blue gray thing that they have going on with Airy, but it's not really the same, so this definitely doesn't quite fit in with these blurples. And really, I think you can see that it's pretty different from all of these grays as well. Caitlin is much more gray. Caitlin is a very blue gray, but it's nowhere near as blue as Vesper, and Petra and Kelly just have very different undertones. So I would say Vesper is totally unique in Zoya's collection, and it's a really, really fun addition. I like this one a lot. All right, up next we have the navy blue in this collection. This is Elliot, and then here we have Sailor and Ryan. And these are a little bit hard to compare down here. They look pretty similar. Sailor is a little bit more kind of dusty and purple. Elliot is a little bit of a more kind of peacock blue. Ryan is a bit deeper and darker. I feel like these do look different up close. I want to swatch these just because I feel like sometimes these really dark polishes actually look a lot more similar kind of when they dry down on the nail. All right, so I'm starting with the first coat of Elliot, and this one, again, I don't think it's going to be a dupe for the blues that we are looking at it compared to. I just think that it's helpful to see them on the nail because, you know, sometimes dark colors like this don't quite look the same in the bottle as on the nail. All right, so this one is Sailor, and now Sailor is a really nice navy that has a little bit of almost like a purple lean to it, so it's gonna look pretty different from Elliot. And here's Ryan, and Ryan is much more blue, and so this one's probably gonna be much closer than Sailor, but I just wanna show you how this will kind of deepen up in two coats and how they look compared to one another. And so here is a second coat of Elliot, and it is getting, I think, just a little bit richer. It's a very, like, luxurious blue. It's very deep and interesting. I really like this one. And here's the second coat of Sailor. This is one of my favorite navies from Zoya. I really like Sailor. All right, and now here's the second coat of Ryan. So this one is gonna look kind of similar to Elliot. It's definitely the closest to Elliot in Zoya's collection. Elliot's probably 2 shades lighter. It's not quite as deep and dark as Ryan, so they're very close, but Elliot's definitely a little bit more kind of bright blue. All right, up next is Ashton, and it is this one in the middle right here. It is a very sparkly polish, and I wanted to compare it to Troy, which is one that it kind of reminded me of immediately, and also to Theo, mostly just because Theo is a more recent polish. All right, so obviously Theo's pretty different. It has those flakies in it. It's much of a lighter gray. Ashton and Troy are much closer. I think the difference is really in kind of the color of the shimmer and also in the color of the base. So Troy is a little bit more of like a blue, kind of steely gray, and Ashton is much more of like a really dark, almost like charcoal gray. So these are definitely different, although the finish on them is really, really similar. Awesome. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope that you learned something. Let me know down below in the comments which one of these polishes you were most surprised by.